Hello everyone and welcome to a new semester at Fonfon. My name is Amy Peach, and in the next 20 minutes I'm going to run us through some of the basic procedures and tasks that we need to accomplish at the beginning of the term to make sure that all of our courses in Blackboard are ready to go for our students. If you are an online instructor, this information is obviously going to be very pertinent to you, but also if you teach blended or hybrid courses, or if you're Blackboard Enhanced, which basically means you're a face-to-face instructor, but you may use the Grade Center, you may provide PowerPoints to your students, you may provide the syllabus. This is the kind of information that's going to be very relevant to you. If you have any questions, problems, or issues as you're going through this process, email is probably the fastest way to get to me, and that's at apeach@fonfon.edu, but you can also get me in the office at 889-1499. My office is in East 102C, so if you're on campus, you're more than welcome to pop by. Quite often I'm there, but sometimes I'm out, so that's why I say the email tends to be a very easy way, because I can check that from just about anywhere. If you're on Twitter, I do tweet various policy issues, technology trends, things that are related to the overall field of educational technology, but I also do post information for instructors and students on certain Blackboard outages or other tech events that are going on around campus. So if you are there, you can find me at AP Fonfon. Now, before we get rolling, I did want to remind everyone that you should have a Blackboard newsletter and new term guide that was distributed by the Fonfon Community Message Board. If you did not get that, or if you lost it, you're not sure exactly what happened to it, just give me a holler and I'll go ahead and forward a new one to you. Okay. Now, a couple of notes about timing, because it's very easy to forget how this works. The previous term's courses are available for 3 weeks after the course end date. After that time, you will see them go away from your dashboard. It's important to note that, first of all, this is an automatic process that's already set up in the system, so they are going to go away 3 weeks after. But the other important thing to note is that just because they're gone from your dashboard doesn't mean they're gone. So if you do run into a problem where you need to go and access the grades again, or there was something, another document that you want to use for a new term, just go ahead and let me know and we can make that available to you. We do encourage everyone to make sure that you are providing, or you're updating your master course, you're downloading your grades, so that you don't have to really rely on us. You can get the information that you need because you have it all downloaded, but don't worry about it, that if something does come up and you do need the old course back, we can bring it up for you. For new terms, your courses will be available 30 days prior to the start date. We really do shoot for this date, but every now and then, those of you who have been here will know that if there is an upgrade or if there's a problem with loading classes, that may delay that just a little bit. It shouldn't be very long, maybe a day or two tops, but we do shoot for right around a month prior to the course start date to make it available. For students, it is set to open 2 weeks prior to the course start date, whether we like it or not. That is automatically set in the system, and students will be able to access the class at that time. Now, one of the common questions that I do get about this is, why do we only get the classes 30 days prior to the start date? And there are a couple of answers to that. First of all, these courses come and go depending on registration, and we don't really have a solid idea of who's teaching what when until about a month prior to that time. The other concern that people have is that they want to have access to that earlier so they can start working in their classes. That is what the master courses are for. So if you're not familiar with a master class or you don't have one, first of all, you can request one from me at any time. These can be made in the back end of the system in about 10 seconds. It takes no time at all. If you don't have one, say for example I'm teaching EDU 120 every single semester, I know that I use a lot of the same content, and I want one shell that is going to be available to me all the time, so I don't have to worry about these deadlines. I can just work in it when I need to work in it. So my master is going to say MSTR EDU 120, and that's going to have my name attached to it, since maybe other people teach that as well. And then that's going to be available to me. I can clean it out and put in the previous term stuff at the end of the term, work in it during the interim, and then when my new term is ready to go, I can just copy it directly into my new courses. So while 30 days is not a lot of time to build a course for an entire semester, it is enough time to copy from a master, which really, provided that there aren't other problems, only takes a couple of minutes. So that's kind of an explanation as to how that's going. Again, if you have any questions or you don't have a master and you want one, you can request one at any time. It takes no time at all. Now in this video, these are the things that we're going to cover as far as beginning the term goes. Number one is a course copy. So when we copy from that live course or the master course into your brand new term, you're going to know how to do that. It is a pretty simple procedure, but because we only do it once a semester, it's very easy to forget how to do that. So we're going to run over some of the basics of getting that course copy up and running. The discussion board, you may notice that after you copy into your class, the discussion board posts actually carried over. It wasn't just the question, it was the posts along with it, and they're all marked as anonymous. We do want to get that cleaned up. It is actually a design feature of Blackboard. It seems like it's an error, but it's actually a design element, and we'll kind of explain in that segment of the video why that is, and then how you can clean it up, which is very easy. Same goes for Grade Center. You roll things over into your Grade Center and maybe they're not in the right order, or you realize you're missing some point values, or something just doesn't quite look right. So we're going to run through how to clean that up pretty easily. And then setting your Grade Center due dates. This used to be a huge pain. You had to go through every single column and go to edit column information and change the date. And if you've got 30 grades in your Grade Center, that's going to get really tedious really quickly. There is a way for you to set your Grade Center due dates on one page, one submit button, and you're done. So that does make it a whole lot easier. You do provide due dates on your syllabus, and that students can reference that, but those of us who teach a lot know that they don't usually check there for their due dates. Quite often they're looking in My Grades in Blackboard to see there's a column that says due dates, and if that's blank or it's got the wrong dates on it, that causes a lot of confusion, and confusion on the student end is bad news for the instructor. So we want to make it as clear as possible, and now it's easy to do. The next one is task-based navigation, and that is new for fall 2012. Essentially what it allows you to do is, let's take the Grade Center example again. I'm working in my Grade Center, I'm cleaning it up, I'm getting it organized, and I know that now that I'm in that mode of thinking, I want to go to the Grade Center of my next class. Let's say I teach several in a semester. While I'm in that frame of mind, I just want to go there. So in the previous version, you would have to go to courses, you'd have to click on control panel, you'd have to click on full Grade Center, you'd have to find what you're doing and get it done. Now, if you are in the Grade Center of Class A and you want to go to the Grade Center of Class B, there's an icon at the top, you find Class B, you click on it, and it takes you automatically to the Grade Center. Doesn't seem like a really big thing, but it really does make workflow a whole lot easier. So we'll show you how to do that. And finally, adding a test student. Some people do this. They're familiar with it. It's a feature that's been around for a while. Some people aren't always familiar with it. What this allows you to do is set up a test student so that after you've completed your course copy, you've got everything cleaned up, it's perfect, you're very excited about it, but as much planning and preparation as you could put into that, some of you have noticed that even when you get through the semester, you miss something. And students are going through and they can't find something, or they're not sure where to go, or some things aren't entirely clear. If you go through this add a test student process, you can log in as a student in your own course, go through all of those elements, and then if anything appears to be missing or is off or it doesn't look the way you expected it to look, it just gives you a new perspective, and that can be a really great way to head off problems so that all of your work for classes at the front end as opposed to putting out fires throughout the semester. Now, this video actually coincides with a handout called Beginning the Semester on a Good Note, and there's a similar one for Ending the Semester. And when you look through this, it does have all of these different segments in it with screenshots and text. So if that works out easier for you to print that out, great. But I do want to point out that each of these videos, we will go ahead and run through them in the 20 minutes that we have. But if you really prefer to just look at certain segments, if you only do this once a year, it'd be advisable to go through everything just to make sure that you understand what's going on. But if you are a seasoned pro and you teach several online classes and you know all about the discussion board cleanup, but you don't know about task-based navigation, or you haven't added a test student, you'll be able to go to that handout, that PDF that was sent electronically, click on the link, and that will take you to just that segment of this video. So just know that this is broken down so that if you are, somewhat comfortable with these other elements, you can tailor your learning to those specific areas. Okay, and from here then we'll just go ahead and move into course copy. Okay, to copy your course, first of all, you need to log into Blackboard, and you can do that obviously through the main FontBond website under Resources for Faculty and Staff. But I would point out that you can go directly there to bblearn.fontbond.edu and go ahead and log in as you normally would, and then that'll take you to this page. You're going to see your My Institution tab and your Courses tab here, and you can tell there are two ways to get to your courses. Now, for this account, I only have 3 listed here. If you have lots and lots of courses, that's going to get a little bit hairier for you. So if you click on Courses, it sort of gets rid of those extraneous widgets, and you can just focus on the classes that you're looking at. Now, if I'm doing a course copy, what I want to do is first of all go to the source course. Let's say I've got a course from spring 2012 here, and I want to copy it into my fall 2012 course. So I can go ahead and click on my spring course. And now I can see that there's lots and lots of information here, and I probably don't need this stuff. I can tell from here that when I did my course copy last time, I really wasn't following directions very well. So I may want to have to clean that up when I get to my fall course. But I know that this is where my content lies. So I want to go down to the control panel. And to course copy, I go to Packages and Utilities. And then I can see my option to course copy here. Now, what I can do is click on Copy Materials into an existing course. Depending on your role, you may or may not have those choices. It may just automatically be there for you. I go down here, and once I've done that, I can see that there's a little browse button here. If I know my course ID by heart, I can just type it in, but I definitely am not that bright, so I'm going to go ahead and browse through my courses. And I can see my list of courses here. Now, one of the things, again, that I would note, if you've got lots and lots of courses, it will generally only show so many on a page. So if you have lots of them, and you are scrolling down and you don't see the one that you're looking for, it goes alphabetical by your course ID. So if you don't see it there, first of all, don't panic. Courses don't disappear. They don't just vanish into thin air. It's there somewhere. The first thing you want to do is, and I don't have it here because I only have 3, but if you look down to this area, you can see that there's a Show All and an Edit Paging, and it has displaying 1 of 3 items. If there is another page with more courses, you're going to see that displayed here. So if you don't see it in your first listing, always go to that because it's probably on the next page. All right, so I know that I'm copying from my spring course. I want to copy into my fall, so all I got to do is click the little circle here. And you will notice that you can only copy to 1 course at a time. It will only show the blue in 1 area. It'd be nice if you could copy to all of your courses at once, but we can't do that yet. It goes into the suggestion box. So once I've selected it, I'm going to click Submit. And now I can see that my official course ID, the one I did not want to memorize, is going to show up in my text box here. Now to copy my course materials, all I need to do is, first of all, frankly, it's just easier to hit Select All. Okay, so that allows you to select everything that you've done, for the entire semester. Now, I'm noticing right here that anything that says fall, spring, anything that appears to be dated, I don't want that. I know that in my fall course or my live course, whatever term it is, that these things are updated automatically by the system. And if I copy these, it's just going to be extra buttons I'm going to have to delete later on. So I know I don't want to do that. I know I don't want to include Ask IT Tech Tips because, again, that's already a part of the template, and so I don't want to worry about that. You may want to make your own call about if there are other areas of the course that you don't want to copy over. All right. I can scroll down here, and the other area that I know I do not want to copy, and this is across the board. It really doesn't matter what is in your class or what judgments you want to make about different things. I need that settings button off. The reason for that is if I keep it on, that new information is not going to apply to my course. What I have in my source course, which is my spring class, that is going to trump whatever is in my fall class. And what that means then is that my students are not getting the most up-to-date contacts, the most up-to-date policies, and that may seem like a small thing, but when we have turnover going on, it's very important that they have the appropriate contacts. So information like contact information for the Kinkle Center and for online programs, this stuff has changed in the last year, and so if I don't leave that off, they're just going to get the wrong information. And again, we don't want to confuse anybody. This process is supposed to make it easier for everyone, not harder. So make sure that that settings button is marked off. I don't have to worry about managing package contents or calculating size. I'm just going to go ahead and click Submit. And And then I see my success messages here, and an email will be sent when the process is complete. Now, I don't know about you, but I am way too impatient. I'm not going to sit around and wait for that. I'm going to go back to my courses. And then when I look at my listing, I can see something different here. It indicates that this course is actually being copied into by this source course, which is the spring, and it indicates that it's running. So if I click on that course, then I can see that, and because I didn't have a whole lot of content in here, I can see a notification that says, hey, the copy's done, you're good to go. If you run into any problems, check the log, which I can click on here and I can see that log. But when I scroll down here, I can see that my content has rolled over. I'm not going to worry about it. I can just get rid of it by clicking that X. Now, because I had everything roll over, I can see my announcements, I can see my faculty course information, but I had a button that said January meeting, I had one that said midterm, I had ones that said specific things, and they're not here. Now, my gut reaction is to call and say, hey, I just copied and it didn't work, or maybe I'll go to my course again, try the course copy again, and not realize something really, really important. This is a default menu. If you have information in a button that says course content, if you have information in course information, if you have those things set up in your source class, then that information will copy over. So if I click on my course content, I can see that my original course content had a Twitter feed and had a few other random test items in here, but not a whole lot. I know I had other very specific buttons. Realize that if it does not fit into the default, you have to scroll all the way down here because it is treated as a brand new button. And what's confusing for people is that if they expect to see that, they expect to see it in this area before they get to FontBond Resources. Realize that when it's brand new, it gets kicked all the way to the bottom. And that starts right here after email. So I can see information, content, January, all of that stuff. It actually, yes, it did copy over. I just didn't scroll down far enough. Now let's say I don't want it there, okay? It's very annoying. And I want it to move up by the rest of my content. All I got to do is roll over the button. I can click on this little, you can see this up and down arrow here. I can click on it and I can drag it all the way to the top. Oops, I released it too early. Okay, click it over here and I can move it. Now I will tell you that one of the little glitches here is that sometimes in certain browsers when I try to move things, it gets knocked right back down to the same area, but if I try it again, it sticks. If you run into that problem, it's a browser problem rather than a Blackboard problem. If it persists, you may just want to try a different one. So I'm in Firefox right now, but if you go into Internet Explorer, that might make it easier for you. Your other option for reordering things, so you can see that I've got a huge set list of buttons here, and which is not really best practice. I should be consolidating a little bit, but I can click on this little up and down arrow here, and that's going to give me an option to reorder my items too. So if I've got a lot of things down here and I know that I want, let's say, my information on a January meeting, I want that to go up toward the top. All I have to do is click on it, click the arrow to move it up, and hit submit. And then it says the items have been reordered, and boom, there it is. Now let's say I do want to change this because, let's say for example, I have a really big meeting in one of my classes and I want it at the beginning of the term. Well, it's not January anymore. If I click on the little drop-down menu, which shows up as I roll over the item, I'm going to see this menu set right here. I can hide the link so that users can't see it. I can delete it if I made a mistake, but remember that once you delete it, it's gone. So please be careful about using that one. And then, I can click just rename. And so let's say I want to say that this is an August meeting. And I'm going to click my little check mark here, or I can click the X to get rid of it. And then it renames it. And so I'm fine. And this is the way I can kind of clean up my information. Because I didn't copy over those policy and contact buttons from old semesters, I've just got the current stuff, so I don't have to worry about it. If you did copy it over by accident, again, just go ahead, roll over the item, click that little drop down, and hit delete, and you can get rid of it. So you don't have to worry about it again. Okay, so after my course copy is complete, I need to go through and check and make sure everything is working. And if I go into my discussion board, and remember with discussion board, you can click on your content area over here. It's also available within your control panel, so if you did get rid of that button, don't worry about it. If I go through course tools, and I click discussion board, then I can see it. And I've got several different boards set up. For most of you, you're just going to have the listing of your one class here. So I can go ahead and click on here. And now I can see all of the different discussion boards that I have. And clearly there are a lot of them in this course. I know that there are quite a few that I need to look at. But this is what's troubling me. I see total posts, I see unread posts, and that doesn't make any sense because I don't have any students participating yet. So I don't know why I would even have anybody in there. Now, one of the things that people might do that I don't want you to do is to click up here, select all of these, and delete. Please note that when you do that, you delete the entire board and you have to copy it over and then do it again, and we don't want to do that, okay? What you need to do to get rid of them is to actually click on the board itself, and then I can see my participants here, and I've got unread posts. They do carry over, but you can see that they're marked anonymous. Now be careful though, because if it's sort of an introductory comment, there may be some personal information about students, so you want to make sure that you're checking this before you let your new students in there. I'm going to go ahead and click on my top button here, and that will let me automatically select all of these students, and then all I got to do is hit delete. Hit delete, and they're done. Okay, so annoying? Yes. Time consuming? No. It really doesn't take a whole lot of time. So all I need to do then is go back to my discussion board, see my listing, and then I can tell, okay, good, that one's all nice and cleaned up. I should have zeros in all of these, but unfortunately I'm going to have to go through each individual one and clean them up. I'm afraid that's the only way around it, honestly. So it is a little frustrating, but the reason for that is that you may have noticed in Blackboard that when you click on the discussion board here, that you can have it linked to your content and it will have a description and explanation and everything of what it is, but that doesn't show up. I would expect it honestly to be right here, kind of explaining what it is I'm supposed to do in this form, but that's not really the case in Blackboard. What you need to do if you want it to show up on the same page is to click Create Thread, type in your question and your response, and then students can either create their own threads or respond to yours. The reason that these copy over is because they assume that when you click Create Thread that could be an instructor's question. And if that's an instructor's question, they don't want to delete that. Now, there are lots of arguments as to why they should get rid of it, and they're debating that, but for the time being, that's what we have to do to get rid of them. Okay, cleaning up the grade center is never very fun, but it is probably the most significant cause of consternation among students is when they don't have a clean grade center. They really don't understand what's going on. They get very confused about their grades, and we don't want that. Nobody wants that. So in order to clean up my grade center, I've already copied everything over. I'm going to scroll down through my control panel, and I can see that I've got grade center option here. I'm just going to click full grade center. Now, when I look at this, I don't have any students in here. If I'm looking at a live class and I've got enrollments, I'm going to see that a little more. But when I scroll over in this area, I can see that these are all of my different options here. And if you're having trouble seeing this, I sometimes have trouble with the gray here. If I roll over it, it gets a little bit darker. So I can see that all of these different grade columns are here, and I've got, oh yeah, several grade items here. Now let's say that I have copied everything over, but as the term goes on even if you don't realize you want to change it before, but if you want to make modifications to your grade center during the semester, this can get very tedious and very difficult. And if you're trying to figure out, well, what order should these things go in, or is it making logical sense to students when they look at it, this view can be very, very difficult. And so in order to fix that, if you go up to the Manage area, you scroll down to Column Organization, I'm going to see this screen here. Okay, and when I look at that, I can see that I've got weighted and total columns here, and I've got all kinds of discussions, and already I see a problem. I've got two sets of this, and I know I don't want that, so I'm going to have to go in there and individually delete them. And this is the one downside to this view. You can't delete from this screen. We've begged Blackboard to let us do that, so I think they're working on it, but it's at this point all we can do is modify it. So if I'm looking here, and in this class I've got week 1, discussion 1, week 4, but I've got a week 1 item here too. So if I'm using a naming system like that, this is going to get confusing really fast to my students. When they click on my grades, they're going to see maybe a grade down here and a grade up here, but nothing in order. And it's going to get really, really confusing when I've got lots, and look at all these items here. I've got just a ton of them. So I know that there's way too many here. I know I need to get this thing cleaned up. So in order to do that, to reorder it is very simple. You can see that these 4 little arrows are here. All I got to do is click over that, hold it down, drag it up to the right area, and let it go. And then I can get that very easily moved from one area to the next. I can also see here that I've got a listing of points possible, the date that the item was created, and a due date. And you can see that there are several that don't have a date. I've got one, yikes, from August of last year. That's not going to make any sense. And it's going to really confuse the students. So I know I want to make sure to clean that up as well. When I go down here, let's say that there's an item here. I had quiz A. I did use that for another semester, but I realized, no, I don't want to show that. If I go to Show Hide, I can hit Hide Selected Columns, and then it grays out. So if you see any items when you go to this menu and you see that they're grayed out, that means they're hidden from students. This is probably one of the biggest causes of confusion for instructors, because it is from this screen where you need to hide items from students. If you do it from the full grade center, as I'll show you in a minute, it hides it from your view, not students. So that's a very important thing to note too. One of the other things that you can change in here, and unfortunately, like I said, you can't delete it, you can't rename them or anything from here, but you can see that at the very top of this listing, there is a grading period and there's a category. Now in higher ed, we don't really use grading periods very much, but quite often, many of us do use categories. I know we use categories on a regular basis. Now, if I realize that something is listed here as a survey, well, survey isn't actually a part of my grade when I look at this with the syllabus. That's actually an assignment. So I can go ahead and click on there. I can roll over this area that says Change Category To, and let's say I know that according to my syllabus that falls under assignment. Click on that, and then it goes ahead and changes that. If you do use grading periods, you can roll over Change Grading Period To. You do have to have grading periods set up in order to access that. So you can see that I've got all of these categories set up in my class. Some are defaults, some are ones that I've individually created, and I can always show you how to do that if you don't know how. But then I can make that change from here. When I'm all done, I need to hit Submit, and then I'll be able to see, all of those changes in there. All right. Now, in order to delete a column, if I did realize that there was something in there and I just don't need it anymore, I can just click on the drop-down menu here. Now, you can see that if I need to change anything just about that individual item, I need to change the name or the point value, the things I couldn't change in the Manage column. I just click on the drop-down, I can see this listing here, and I can go to Quick Column. This is a test, so it asks me if I want to edit the test, if I want to edit the column information. I can grade anonymously, all kinds of things that I can do here. Now you notice though that normally there's going to be a hide column option here. Oops. So if I realize that right below here is where I'm supposed to see delete, if I don't see a delete column option, that means it is attached to something in my content, and I am not going to be able to delete it until I change that content area. So if I look around here, let's see if I can find something that gives me an option. Nope, that's attached. I think because of the way that mine is structured, almost all of them are attached. Okay, here's one. Now, if it's detached and it's not associated with a content item, I can click Delete Column. It says, "Are you sure?" I can click OK, and then that's fine. It goes away. So that's no problem. Okay, setting grade center due dates. This used to be a huge problem. It used to be a big pain. You have to go into that, remember that drop-down menu in each one of those grade center columns. You used to have to go in there and change that, and most people just didn't even want to deal with it. Now we've got a nice, quick, easy way to do that. So if I scroll down into my class, and I go down to the control panel, I am going to see under Course Tools, so remember if I have this collapsed, I have to open it. I can go down to Set Grade Center Due Dates, and then I will see this nice, neat, clean screen, and this is a wonderful joy. So all I have to do then is I can click on the little calendar here, and if I know that I've got a semester closer date. Let's say I know I want this to be, let's say I know that's September 4th is that due date. I can go and click on that, and I can change it automatically. You can go in and type in these things as well. You can change dates that are already there. You can add dates where there are none. Go ahead and make all of those modifications. You can mark it to be unavailable from this screen if you choose to do that. Again, if you have due dates set up by grading period, you can edit those in that way. Can run through, and after I add all of my due dates on my one screen here, I go ahead and click submit, and then they automatically process. Now, one of the things that I would notice, just as a side, because I have seen this happen once or twice, don't be worried about this, okay? You should be able to see it. This is a little bug going on in Blackboard right now. And so when I actually go into my full grade center, everything does appear to be working when I roll over those dates. So I did notice that. But if I go into set grade center due dates again, and I may run into some change. Oh, that one actually did not take. So anyway, if you do see a deadline, if you notice that it did not take for whatever reason, it may be a little bug from left over from the upgrade, but that shouldn't be a problem. So if you do find that it is a problem, if you get, and this is a good idea in Blackboard in general, that if you go into something and you get an error message, go back in and check it, see if it took. If it did not take, then let us know. But sometimes it does kick errors where there are none, which is kind of we're not exactly sure why it does that, but that will go ahead and apply. And then when students go into course notifications, which is it's the old home page, they can see in their to-do section what's due from the student view. They're going to be able to see today, tomorrow, this week. You won't be able to see it. I should warn you about that. From the instructor view, you can't see that. But for students, if you go into your Add Test Student site, you're going to be able to see items that are listed there. And it's pretty prominent when they log in, so that is important to note. Okay, test-based navigation is a great new feature to try to improve workflow. And one of the areas that honestly a lot of people tend to work in and need to just hop from one to the other is announcements. So we're going to go ahead and use that as an example. If I go down into Course Tools and I click on Announcements, I'm going to go just to my Editing Announcements page. And let's say I'm working on this one area. I want to go ahead and add my announcement. I'm making all of my adjustments. And let's say I want to actually do it in several classes. I can copy and paste it, and then I would have to go back into courses. I would have to figure out where my announcements were, and that could be kind of annoying. So right up here on the left-hand side, first of all, you'll notice that there's always this little home icon. So if you wander around your class too much and you just want to go back to the course entry site, you can go there. But if I click on this drop down, now I can see my courses that are listed. And I know I want to work in announcements and I want to do it, let's say, over in my demo site over here. I click on there, and you may notice this. Remember that this quick startup guide is here, so if I did not hide it, that is going to pop in. So I can go ahead and hit that. And now it's going to stay in my announcements area. Let's say I finish up my announcements and I'm moving on to Grade Center, and I'm just going to go ahead and keep working in the same course. I can go ahead and identify that I've got all of these different students, and these are not real students. You can tell that they're not real. But as I'm looking through here, I realize that I want to set up, and again, we have things like color coding and lots of different features in the Grade Center that you'll want to learn if you don't know them. But I want to keep working in Grade Center, and I want to go back to my other class. So I go back in here, I click on my Fall 2012, and it takes me over to my Grade Center in my other class. So it's not really a big feature, but it definitely does make things easier for you as you're trying to work through the entire semester. One of the most frustrating things after going through all of that prep work is getting a month into class and discovering that students can't see content, or they can't find something, or they are supposed to take a quiz and they just can't access it for some reason, and you really can't always figure out why. Now, as diligent as we are, those things get overlooked all the time. The easiest way, honestly, to combat it is to add a test student to your class. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to go to the course where you want to add one. If you go down to the control panel and click on Course Tools, you will see the very first item here says Add Test Student. I'm going to go ahead and click there. And now I see that I have never created a test student account before, so I am going to see this page. Now I can see that it automatically sets up my username, and what that's going to be is my original username. So this one is Instructor Peach, or it might be A Peach or J Smith or whatever, and then it's going to have an _S, and that's how you know that that is your student account. So just always remember that your student account is going to be your username _S, and that's what you're going to use to log in. I'm going to go ahead and set up a password, as long as it's something I remember and I write it down. And if you don't and you can't figure out how to access it again, just give us a call and we'll go ahead and reset it for you. I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. And then I can see that my test account is there, and I'll be able to add it. Now from this screen too, if I do want to change it or reset it, I can go ahead and do it that way. Now, to actually access my course as a student, I'm going to have to go back to the logout screen. I'm going to have to type in my new username. I have to type in my password and click Login. And now I can see Blackboard as my students see Blackboard. So if I click on my fall course here, now you can tell it looks really different. It's actually a lot cleaner. It's a little bit nicer, which makes me feel better for my students. But when I scroll down here, I can see that there's no control panel, there's nothing else here. And if I click on course content, or let's go to my August meeting area here. So if I click there, and I can see I've got random assignments and tests and other things going on here. And if I'm looking through this list and all of a sudden I realize that something is missing, that tells me that I need to go back in my instructor account, need to make a note of it. So as I go through my course, I'll make notes of things that I know don't look right, or I couldn't access, or something is going on. And then what I can do is go back to logout. I can go back and log in with my username. And unfortunately, there's no one-click way to do that. We have to actually log back in. I can go back into my file class, and I can figure out what went wrong, what's going on, why can't my students access it. The only area that causes confusion for people when they do this is if you, first of all, if there is a content area that you can see right here, well, this one is hidden, I'm sorry, but other ones, if they have no content, the button is not even going to show for students. So just realize that when you go in as a student and you know that you've seen a button before but it's not showing up with students, if there's no content in it, it's not even going to show up on their menu, because there's really no reason for it to show up if nothing's in it. So just as kind of a heads up, that's the one thing that you want to watch out for.